Good afternoon. Welcome to Museum of the Albemarle's History for Lunch, the first Wednesday of September. It's hard to believe that we are already in the month of September, but the summer seems like it has just flown by. But if you step outside today, the weather might be a little warm. Just to let you all know that the governor did lift some of the restrictions yesterday. So we are in phase 2.5, and the museum will welcome visitors back next Thursday, September the 10th. And our hours will be from 10 to 4, Monday through Friday, but we will not open until Thursday, September the 10th. So, but let's go ahead and get started with our program today. We have Meghan. She's coming live from the Currituck Lighthouse, and we are just excited to have Meghan with us today. So Meghan, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. Thanks everybody for being here. My name is Meghan Agresto. I'm going to try not to wave my hands around or talk too quickly or shout at you or shove my face in your face. So let's see how it goes. I'm the site manager of the Currituck Beach Lighthouse. It actually has 3 words, Lori. You can't forget the word beach in there.
I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. The lighthouse, what I think I'll do for this is walk y'all through some history. I've got a PowerPoint presentation with a lot of photos that I think you'll enjoy. And then I'm going to take my entire computer, walk us outside, see the lighthouse, try to walk all the way into the lighthouse with y'all. And it might be my final goodbye to you, because there will come a point if I keep walking that I will lose you. No, let's not do that, because then I won't have got, this is what I'll do. I'll go through a PowerPoint, then I'll take questions, then I'll walk us as far as I can into the lighthouse until I lose you. And that could be my final hurrah, if you want, Lori. We could try it that way. Let me pull up my screen share. PowerPoint, here we go. Good. The Currituck Beach Lighthouse is owned by the Outer Banks Conservationists. We'll get to that in a second. Like, how did it go from being built by the United States government and having federal appropriations build so many lighthouses around the United States about the same time our lighthouse gets built, which is 1875, to being owned by a nonprofit. This is my 16th year. Just got through my 16th summer here. It was the most unique of every summer I've had, of course, since we were closed and have been closed all season, whereas usually summer it's like go, go, go. Anyway, we'll get to how the Outer Banks Conservationists own the actual tower. The state of North Carolina owns the property, and the US of A owns our lens and maintains it as an active aid to navigation. Oh gosh, hold on, I need to get, oh, there we go. Okay, Laura, you can see my screen, right? We just switched over to something you need for a lighthouse. Good. So as you can see from my highlighted spot, 8 ships went ashore here on the same night in 1852. Now that's unusual, but still meant to prove to Congress the need for having a lighthouse here. If 8 can go ashore on one night, lots of need for a lighthouse. And actually, I'm going to skip. Hold on. I'm sorry to. Yes, this is what I wanted to get us to. I'm going to go back to all those things I just skipped through. But I just transcribed this congressional report recently, and it indicates to us in both 1870 and 1871 reports that by the time they build this lighthouse, it's going to fill, and I've got it here in blue, the only one important break of unlighted coast on the Atlantic from Maine to the coast of Florida. So we're going to go between Cape Henry Lighthouse, which was a Hamilton light at the time. It was the first U.S. Congress appropriated lighthouse, so just the one lighthouse north of us, to Body Island, which here is called Body's Island. It was sometimes written B-O-D-Y', sometimes B-O-D-I-E-S. To this day, it maintains the I-E, so any 3rd grade teacher would say, oh, you should pronounce it Bodie, right? That should be a long O, and it's penultimate syllable, sorry, but it's not, because people have always called it Body Island Lighthouse or Body's Island Lighthouse. Today, it is called Body Island Lighthouse, but it still has the IE at the end. So what we knew is there was 80 miles between Cape Henry and Body Island Lighthouse, and 40 miles in the smack middle of those 80 miles were dark. So the Currituck Beach Lighthouse was here to illumine the dark space. We actually put a book together that said to illuminate the dark space. And when I went to transcribe it, it turned out that the congressional report used the word illumine and not illuminate. So we thought that was fun. Too bad we named a book slightly with the wrong quote. But okay, I'm going to take us back to the beginning. Here we go. The lighthouse doesn't get built. Remember, all those ships go ashore in 1852. Congress appropriates money. They order a lens for us from France, a Fresnel lens. And then, unfortunately, Body Island needs to be rebuilt, only for the second time. It's going to get built. Oh, no, this will, and the second, right, in 1859 is their second iteration, because then that one's going to disappear in the Civil War, and they're going to get built a second and a third time before the Currituck Beach Lighthouse gets built. So we come up again, 1873, Congress appropriates money. Construction begins in 1874 on my birthday, June 19th. In case y'all missed it this year, you can catch it next year. And then by December 1st, 1875, our lighthouse is first illuminated. So from June to December, we're actually completely built. Believe it or not, by the end of October of 1875, this lighthouse is completely built, which says that OSHA standards were probably very different back then than they might be now, because that's about 16 months to build a 160-foot double conical tower. There's actually airspace in between the inside and the outside tower. So as you go up, if you bore through, you would hit airspace all the way around, which was meant to keep this tower from changing temperatures too quickly. And indeed, it was hot all summer, and it is now hot in that lighthouse. So when you come in January, it's been cold, and then it is cold even on a warm day. Here's what they say about where Corolla currently is, which at the time there was no Corolla town. Well, we're still not an incorporated town, but still no post office. It says, this lighthouse is drearily situated among high and glittering sandhills on the coast, destitute of vegetation and utterly unpicturesque. And you can see maybe that's true. If y'all have gone to visit, say, the tip of Hatteras Island, I think is essentially what Corolla used to look like. Here's a drawing, which of course in some ways is imagined, because you see it's an aerial view above a sailboat. So obviously there's no airplanes at the time. So it's slightly imagined, but it gives a good idea of what this strip of sand looks like when the lighthouse is built. This is an image right after the Metropolis wreck, or to be of the Metropolis. Here is an image actually of our lighthouse and our keeper's house. You can see seen from about 5 miles out at sea. If you were to sail today, you would not see our keeper's house. See that little thing right there? That's not the oil house of the lighthouse. That's the side of our keeper's house. Later, this is far before dune construction happens. We know dune construction on the northern Outer Banks happens through the WPA in 1940. So that's after the lighthouse isn't even burning oil at the top anymore. And that allows so much vegetation to grow up. At this point, when you sailed by, you could see this lighthouse and this keeper's house. Now I'm looking out my little window here. All I can see is a fig tree and a whole bunch of pines, which is fine, because the idea of a tall lighthouse is that your light shines for far, and not that your keeper's house necessarily is seen from the ocean. Here's just an image that I got from lighthousefriends.com, which is a pretty amazing lighthouse site. If you want to know anything about any lighthouse in America, there it is, lighthousefriends.com. It gives us an image of all of the lighthouses that used to be in Eastern North Carolina around 1900. And you can see there are so many of them. In fact, we have an affinity for all our lighthouse keepers. We've spent a lot of time learning and doing genealogy and writing a bio. That's how I spent COVID, writing, drafting. I haven't printed it yet. A bio on all our lighthouse keepers. But our lighthouse keepers themselves might not have had an exceptional affinity for the Currituck Beach Lighthouse. Some of these guys worked at 14 different lighthouses. You would start at one. All of these ones in the water are screw pile lighthouses. So you're in the water. If y'all have ever been to Manio or Edenton, of course, right? Presumably, well, I don't know where y'all are logging in from, but why did I say of course? We have still in northeastern North Carolina some screw pile lighthouses that you can visit, but if you were a lighthouse keeper at Currituck, you probably cut your teeth on those, what some people call bachelor lighthouses, where you and two other guys are living in the same space, keeping a light at the top of your little house on pilings in the middle of water, lit at all times. Oh gosh, hold on, I clicked something, there we go. The Albemarle and Chesapeake Canal and the Great Dismal Swamp are already built by the time the Currituck Beach Lighthouse is built, and we wouldn't have been built without them, just based on the way that they needed to get post-Civil War, getting brick and ironwork from the north, which is how they did it for our lighthouse, down. You're not going to be able to bring it down on the ocean and then land here in Corallo. In fact, we're not a welcoming lighthouse at all. We're a lighthouse that says, hey, well, and then initially we had a red flash. Now that's a whole tricky thing, is how to create a flash with oil. So you had to use gravity and a clockwork system to get a weight to fall, to move an arm around our lens that had a ruby red glass on it in front of flash panels that are configured differently than the rest of the Fresnel lens, so you could see a flash, but our flash was red. And just like today, a red flash says, hey, warning, Cape Hatteras is on its way. You're trying to avoid the Gulf Stream by hugging the coast. You're gonna get stuck in shoals. It's gonna be bad, and there's no deep water here. So anyway, using the canal, this lighthouse, in this case, the Albemarle and Chesapeake Canal, is how we get all of the material to build the Currituck Beach Lighthouse. And in fact, you needed all of these little screw pile lighthouses to help you navigate those waters. I thought this was an interesting picture. It's a 1949 color slide, which is very unusual. And the son of a man who taught at our schoolhouse for 1 year in 1949 provided it to me. You can see, I haven't told you this, but by 1937, our lighthouse keepers are gone. They're out of a job. They've automated this tower. It's electrified in 1933, automated by 37. We don't need to have keepers here. And by 1949, you can see the paint job on this keeper's house is already hurting. But look at this dune that's north of this lighthouse. I know this is facing north because I can see 3 windows on the east side of the lighthouse and only 2 on the west, if you ever need to know. That's how you know if you can't see the keeper's house or this little oil house. So the ocean is over here. And north of us is a huge dune. There used to be so many dunes in this, whatever they called it, unpicturesque place. Oh no, here they call it high hills and glittering sand hills, high and glittering sand hills. That's slightly nicer. And you can see that indeed, like Jockey's Ridge. I'm going to assume some of you know what I'm talking about, but we do have a state park down south, which is seriously, well, it's one remaining visitable sand dune, not privately owned sand dune here. This sand hill that we're looking at here was Jones Hill, and it was flattened to build a development north of here. Putting Currituck on the map, so we're moving toward the feds purchasing the land. That's 1873, and here's what they say about it at the bottom. As the land is not of any value, I presume he will sell. Here's the deed of sale here from 1873. Obviously, the people who own oceanfront lots today wish that were still true, I suppose, because they bought it for more than almost nothing. The lighthouse itself is built on plans that were used throughout the United States. And because, let me think, is this true? I think we might be the last to be built on these plans. Even California had 3 built on almost these plans, although I mentioned our 3 windows facing east. There are a few lighthouses that look almost identical to ours, but are slightly shorter. If you're built on a dune or a cliff, you don't need to be as tall as we are, of course, because the Outer Banks are so flat, except for those dunes I talked about. You need to get your focal point, your focal plane high up. But if you're building on a cliff, you can have a shorter lighthouse. So we consider a bunch of lighthouses to be twins to ours based on the architect and the drawings, but certainly some of our twins are shorter than we are. So we'll call them fraternal twins, perhaps, not identical. And I've just shown us here the plans for the keeper's house. We are one of at least 5. I just learned about a 5th one the other day. I've always said the Currituck Beach Lighthouse was one of 4 houses built on these plans, but it turns out in California, there was a house almost identical to this house that was destroyed in the San Francisco earthquake. So I'll show you a picture of that. This is the little storehouse that I'm currently sitting in, and I have not found a single other lighthouse that shared our storehouse. We are the only keeper's house that still exists that was built on these plans. And there are many lighthouses still, not many, some still in operation that are built on our architectural plans. I already showed you that quote. This time around, they order us a first order Fresnel lens, which is in fact the largest of all the orders of Fresnel lenses. There were 7, and it makes sense because we're a coastal lighthouse. We shine for 18 nautical miles. Oh, darn it, y'all. When I was putting these slides together, I meant to add a little picture on the fact that we have switched over from a halogen to from an incandescent to an LED light in the past couple of weeks. I put a whole video together on it. You're gonna have to Google it. Oh, I've got an employee calling me. I'm sending him the voicemail. Sorry, Andy. Anyway, here is the image that I found in the National Archives in Philadelphia of our lens. And if you remember, I mentioned the ruby red glass. So you have all of these fixed prisms. This part of the lens does not rotate. But then if you look at this arm here, and then this gear system here, and this crank system here, I'm actually touching right here some wheels that rolled around the base of this lighthouse, the base of this pedestal, and that rotated what was 3 flash panels here to create that red flash. So it was a 90-second period, 85 seconds of white light and 5 seconds of red light. That changes during World War I because shipping has sped up dramatically. So I don't have the indicator of how that happened. Did they double the weight that was attached to the cable that went all the way down the lighthouse? Did they make it twice as heavy? Did they make the gears smaller? I don't know what it took to literally have that period, but we went from a 90-second period to a 45-second period where you would see a flash. Right now, since 1933, we've been on a 3-second on, 17-second off flash. And now that we're in LED, it's wild. There's no fade in and fade out like we used to have. Those 3 seconds are bright and then we're off. Oh, here's a little bit of a zoom in into the crank system that I mentioned. An 1893 photograph of our house. South side, this is Keeper Hennant. The only reason you might have pronounced it differently, but I've spoken to some descendants who say it rhymes with pennant, so I always have to get that right. I'm gonna mention Hennant later. Look at his sweet kids, because one of them is gonna get thoroughly beaten by a keeper as a 10-year-old later, which causes this guy to request a transfer. And we have 2 lighthouse keepers and 1 wife on the side. I also put a content video together about that, like an exploration of our lighthouse through this one photograph. So if you get on YouTube or our Currituck Beach Lighthouse Facebook page, and I'm only more recently on Instagram, so I'm not sure all my original videos are on Instagram, but check us out. You're gonna be like, no, Megan, I already had enough of you. But if you don't have enough of me at the end of this, you can get more from my videos. Here, I'm just gonna give you some interesting photos of when I say an identical twin, you might be like, whoa, that doesn't look identical. It's an architectural twin. Obviously, not obviously, sorry, I'm making assumptions. Lighthouses work all day long, but they have 2 different ways that they work. In the daytime, they have their day markers. So this is the lighthouse directly south of us. It cannot look exactly like us, or it's not a landmark. You don't know where you are, you're gonna crash. So the Currituck Beach Lighthouse has always been unpainted, probably because we're the last one built and the only thing left was maybe polka dots, right? Because we've got stripes for body, diagonals for Hatteras, diamonds for Cape Lookout. At the time, Cape Henry to the north of us was all white. So we're unpainted, that's our day marker. So architectural twin, 2 windows, 2 tower windows on the side. I'm not referring to the 4 east, northeast, southwest at the top in that watch room. You'll also notice in all the pictures I show you, lens room photographs. While lighthouse keepers are carrying oil always have their curtain closed during the day, in a sense to protect their lens, but also to make sure that when they got up there at night, it was not wicked hot up there. And it's kind of a historic shame for us because it would be so interesting to see all of these lenses in their original situation. But that's never going to be the case, or those keepers would have gotten fired when the photographer showed up and they let him photograph open shades. Here's Morris Island Lighthouse. If y'all have been to Folly Beach, you know this lighthouse is in the middle of the ocean right now. You can even tell they had to build a retaining wall early on. This is the 1890s. But that keeper's house, even though its trim is painted differently, is an identical site to ours, not counting the storehouse I told you about, the tower and house. So this site is close to my heart. This is Hunting Island Lighthouse. You're gonna recognize our keeper's house again. Here it is in front of the tower. You can see this tower is is not an identical twin to our tower. St. Augustine Lighthouse, different keeper's house. Yes, twin to our tower, closed curtains at the top, unfortunately. Sand Island is in the Mobile Bay, or the mouth of Mobile Bay. And it's not Mobile. I once went to visit the Lighthouse Society down here. I gotta say Mobile. Cost me a little effort, but I can do it. Mobile Bay. And this one is a little bit shorter than ours. You might not be able to tell, but you see it has the oil house in front and tower behind it. Piedras Blancas in California, shorter than ours. Oh, hold on, what's happening here? They don't have the oil house in this picture. This is the one I didn't know about, y'all. I just learned about this lighthouse. I'm so excited to learn more. Now there's a lighthouse there that looks nothing like ours, which is why I was not on this. You know, it wasn't in my focus. But, and again, you can see on this side of the tower, which is the ocean side, there are just two lights. So it's going to be shorter than ours, but it is, again, on a cliff. And we don't have a window right here, but this crossbeam here and the way the windows are lined up, this is a near identical twin to our keeper's house. So I'm going to be learning more about, what do we call it? Point Arena, I guess. Morris Island, which I mentioned in Charleston in the middle of the ocean at Folly Beach, had, how many did they end up with? 264 pilings under their lighthouse, distributing the 3,200 tons of their tower onto those pilings. So each piling held 12 pounds of weight. In the National Archives in Philadelphia, I found this drawing of our foundation, and it looks to me like, and this was, you can't see what on the cut I've shown you, but on the original, this looks like the stamped filed copy. So I think we ended up with 216 pilings, assuming, even though Major Haynes did not note it on the congressional reports, or he did, which were burned, unfortunately, in a big fire in Washington in the 1920s. But assuming we weigh something like 3,200 tons, each one of our pilings bears about 14.8 tons. Well, that was just interesting. Now, remember this, 1875 were illuminated, 1876 our keeper's house is built. I can't hear y'all if you're gonna answer my question, so I'll give you a quiz and then I'll give you credit for it, assuming you get it right. 1876 for the feds is an interesting year. Why? I'm gonna give you 1 second just to think about it. 1876, it sounds a lot like 1776. And there are a lot of keeper's houses, identical to ours, that are built right at that exact time, and I don't think it's a mistake. This is what they call, and sometimes in writing, a first-class lighthouse. It's aged well. If you showed up today, you would also say, Megan, that's a first-class lighthouse you work at. I feel like you would say that, even though I don't know you. But a graphic representation of the Currituck Beach Lighthouse is one of these images. I cannot, the Smithsonian has no record of it or its whereabouts anymore. And I've traced it from where it was supposed to go to where it was supposed to go. But I do have reason to believe that a graphic representation of the Currituck Beach Lighthouse showed up at the Centennial Expo in Philadelphia, celebrating 100 years of the United States. Here's another image. Oh, if y'all have been to see us, you'll see a couple of interesting things that existed at that time. A fence going from the keeper's house to the front of the lighthouse, and at the front of the lighthouse was a Y. Because if you were an assistant keeper, and we had two, a first assistant keeper, a second assistant keeper living in our house. So our house is built as a duplex. If you rank and filed your way up, principal keeper got his own side of the house where he could live with his family. None of this live in the middle of the sound in a bachelor pad. Or on the north side of our house, two keepers shared the house. And that's true for, let me just do this, 25, 45 years. And one of the ways they split the space was to say, hey, your yard, my yard. And at that Y, there were two different gates leading you into the lighthouse. And I can see from this picture that their door is painted more dark. Our door is currently painted white. And there's a horse here. So you know about the Crawl of Wild Horses. I don't know anything about the history of this horse, but we certainly know that the surfmen used horses, and there's one here at the lighthouse. I know that lighthouse keepers' horses sometimes run away and they got to go find them 7 miles away. So anyway, I don't know how they get those horses or whether they're part of the same genetic breed of the Spanish stallions that we have here. But interesting picture. And here you can see, oh, and all the times the keepers are getting in trouble in the 1880s for leaving their post in the middle of the night and tending to their hogs. And you can see in these photographs, there's definitely wide open space and space to keep animals. You can see my office. I'm sitting literally right here talking to y'all right now, which is cool because this building gets stolen and we have to buy it back. So I'm actually sitting in like purchased stolen property right now. Here is a 5th district map with different indicators of flash panels. And then this is ours. It would have had a key on it. Oh, I'm sorry, I cut the key off. But here's Currituck Beach Lighthouse going and overlapping, you see, with Cape Henry Lighthouse and with the Body Island Lighthouse. So you are never sailing with a dark space. I've been spending a lot of time learning about disease, you know, the reality of keeping the light burning. I was just about to launch a video on diseases and lighthouse keepers, but I've got to put that on hold in case we need, not in case, in order to help us get this lighthouse reopened to the public, since the governor's announcement yesterday that museums were able to open, even though all my employees have gotten other jobs. Not all of them, maybe all of them. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, I just made a little list of, a lot of people will say, oh, you live at the lighthouse. It's an amazing thing. It is, that's why I've been here for so long. But also the reality of keeping oil burning all night long and living at the end of the earth and contending with either with the combination of isolation and living way too close to other families at the end of the earth, because there is definitely some quibbling and your kids are going to make a ton of noise. You either had a lot of kids or no kids, right? So that's part of, you know, issue monotony. You just had a lot of work to do. When we do a personnel record check for all of these lighthouse keepers, some of them will say they're working 90 hours a week every day of the week. Oh, not to mention the trauma of actually being involved in shipwrecks, right? So you can go from insanely boring to insanely traumatic. 1880 census shows us that 24 people were living here, which is funny. And that's where I get when you work for the feds, all of your records get saved in perpetuity, which is how I know about all the quibbling or the finger pointing or the possible poisoning of my dog, all sorts of issues. And right after 24 people are living in this house in 1880s, the next round of lighthouse keepers is actually just 3 bachelors. I think that the inspectors got a little bit sick of hearing about all the problems with those very big families. It looks like a big house. The 24 people in any house is a lot to contend with. Shipwrecks after construction, I mean, the whole idea was put a lighthouse here and stop ships from coming up on shore. That does, for the most part, happen, but not 100%. The Huron comes up and our lighthouse keepers have to bury the dead. One keeper who eventually gets run off, and I can't tell whether it's rightful or not, furnishes food and shelter for 61 people. When I already said 24 people was a lot. Plus 61 in that house, that's gonna be a lot of people. And burying dead, 15 and citizens, oh, that was the Jones Hill for the metropolis, when you're burying surfmen and citizens. Here we go, we move into the quibbling. Burris is a Virginian. This is right after the Civil War. a Democrat gets drunk at the station and sleeps on duty. That's the same guy who let 61 people sleep in his house. So this goes back and forth for a while, but one of the people who tries to get Burris in trouble is the same one I mentioned who later savagely beats a 10-year-old. It's very hard to pick through these records and figure out what's going on. I've heard from Mr. Burris that Mr. Everton's dog died from the effects of poison. Oh yeah, so hard times. Here we come back. This is Keeper, what year is this? 1884, I think. Keeper went to Log Point for supplies, that's across the Currituck Sound, and returned at 3:30 and found his boy, 10 years old, brutally beaten by one Louis Napoleon Simmons, former keeper of the station, who is now teaching in a public school here on this island. Ellen Simmons stopped in front of the station this morning and abused Keeper and made threats. Keeper requests a transfer to some other station, and he is in fact granted that. But still, Currituck Beach Lighthouse was the place to be. Here we hear from George Johnson, whose life never gets easier after he moves here. He loses a son, a daughter that he was raising, who was really a niece, drowns. He requests a transfer, and then two of his boys die once they move up to Virginia. Another one drowns, and another one of pneumonia. He has two who die of pneumonia and two who drown. But at least in 1912, he was eager to come to Currituck. He says, in the case of vacancy, second assistant keeper, please transfer me. I have 3 small children, which I would like to send to school, but I could not send them here, for the nearest school is 6 miles from here, while he's at Cape Henry, north of here. This is just a listing also from Lighthouse Friends of all of the lighthouses that were lit at the time. Currituck Beach gets a school about the same time. So the letter we read was from 1912, but in the late 1890s, we get a post office and a school and a church. So this becomes really a great lighthouse station to be placed at. This photograph is from much later on, but I thought you would enjoy it. Currituck Beach gets a name change in 1895. We get a post office, and we've got to get a name. And Currituck Beach is too close to Currituck, obviously, which is a township, or not even a township, a post office on the mainland. So we get called Corolla from that point on. Time flies. We get some IOV lamps, flash pattern change that I had mentioned. In 1920, we get a new house over here. We get to keep our duplex dwelling, but on a barge from Long Point Island, which had been a light station in the Currituck Sound, is moved the keeper's house from that station. It has been moved to Coinjock onto the mainland. And so that little house hadn't been used for, I think, at least 5 or 6 years. So it gets moved over here. So our 3 keepers now have 3 dwellings, 2 within the duplex and 1 in that little house. 1933, we're electrified. I talked about that. The lower clockworks and bullseye from the tower went to Coinjock to take fixtures for Mr. Leonard. We still have 2 partial flash panels, but 1 was obviously removed. And in 1937, there's no more need for on-site keepers. And Homer Treadwell Austin, whom I show you here, is the last oil-carrying lighthouse keeper. He'll become important in the story of the Outer Banks Conservationists. Census proof, sometimes I like to give you a primary source. Dune creation, we can see down here that there are men from Fort Eustis living here, building dunes. In the 1950s, this site, don't look ahead. Oh gosh, where'd I go? Oh, I'm going the wrong way. Oh Lordy. Okay, hold on, nope, y'all, that's it. Let's see if I can do it this way. You're getting a preview. Here we go. Federal property transfers to the state. And you can see here, for the purpose of muskrat experimentation and research, recreation, and other public purposes. But Raleigh at the time, if y'all had ever driven from Raleigh to the Outer Banks, even when I used to do it in the 90s as a college kid, it was a really far trip, and the state did not spend a lot of time taking care of the buildings on this site. So here was the building that got moved over in 1920. This is a picture of it still at Long Point. Here it is in the 1970s, after all the vines around it had been cut away. So 1933, actually, this house becomes vacant because it's home to our third keeper, the second assistant keeper, where he moves into it in 1920. In 1933, we get rid of this guy. We keep 2 keepers for the next 4 years, and then every house is empty. And you can see that things start fading a little bit. We get some barracks here, the grass grows long. This is a 1955 Virginian Pilot article, well, Portsmouth Star, about our schoolhouse and how well it's doing. But 3 years later, there's nobody left in Corolla practically, and the school shuts down. That's the beginning of what to do with Corolla kids and how to get them educated. Send them a boat, send them a bus, let them drive themselves and pay them. Here's a great aerial picture I got from the United States Coast Guard's historian's office. You can see my little office. Storehouse is still in place, and this is 1961. It's about to get stolen, though. Keeper's house not looking good, right? So at this point, there is still one other twin to our keeper's house. The one in Piedras Blancas still exists, but they're going to demolish it soon to build 12 Coast Guard cinder block houses. Oh, but you get a good feeling there for how undeveloped Corolla is in the 60s. Here we go. 1962, storehouse still there. The cistern used to be here. It's completely gone. And you can just see that this house just doesn't look good. Somebody's obviously come and mowed, but the little keeper's house is starting to get grown over. Here it is in the late 70s. I mean, banisters have been stolen. Stolen's a big word. You might say salvaged, perhaps, if the federal government or then the state government might have thought you stole it. But if you lived here, you might say, look, obviously no one's going to do this. And in fact, Currituck County eventually considers this property a attractive nuisance and wants to burn it down because of the number of hippies and graffiti and fight for the soul. The pastors are coming down. Oh, look, you can see there's a little sign on the side here that says, save your soul, come to this church in Virginia Beach. So Currituck County's having none of this, and they really want this house burned down. And then John Wilson comes along and his family. This woman is the granddaughter of Homer Treadwell Austin, who I showed you a picture of earlier. John Wilson is a young architect. He's come up here. He knows that his mom, who lived in Manio, spent summers with her grandfather here and said, this is a travesty. Somebody's got to save this house. He approaches the state of North Carolina. He founds the Outer Banks Conservationists and says, hey, state of North Carolina, transfer this building out of the hands of wildlife into cultural resource hands. They have the capacity to form a lease with my nonprofit, and I'll do the work for you. And the state of North Carolina said, thank you. Here's a 25-year lease. You may use that house as a private residence as long as you meet these standards. Portsmouth Island has done that too. The National Park Service does that. You do the work on the house, you can use it. Here he is again. You can see that's a very tall ladder going to the top of the 3rd floor, and lo and behold, 1983, no storehouse here, but the keeper's house is looking grand. That cistern, the cistern that had disappeared is actually on the north side. We're looking at the south side here. So it still looks like it could use some work, but things are definitely moving along. Keeper's house, look, you can see the roof not doing so well still. In 1990, Coast Guard and
Hey, Megan, can you hear me? Because I think you froze. If everyone will just bear with us for just a moment. Let's see here. You're back.
is everybody else still there?
Yes, everyone is still here, so you're good to go.
My internet, I am so sorry. I do not know what happened. All of a sudden, you disappeared.
Yeah. All of a
Okay.
sudden, you were frozen in time.
Oh man, and I was like, I don't know if y'all can hear me, but it looks like I'm so sorry. I'll go back. Oh, I need you to enable my screen share.
Okay, let's see here.
But I can I only have a few more slides, but are people like, whoa, that girl's been talking too long. Do we want to I got to run to my other job. Let me ask Megan a quick question before I go. Is that helpful to anybody?
Well, actually, we do have two questions if you want to try to go ahead and answer the two questions. Okay.
Yeah.
So the first question, why wasn't the lens made in the U.S.? Were the French experts in this?
The French were indeed experts. That's a great question. Augustin Fresnel in the 1820s really figures out the catadioptric lens, which is how he gets prisms to reflect and refract and shine, so that if your light is in the middle of the focal plane, he gets a lens. He's a lens maker, essentially. And Fresnel lenses are still used to this day, not just in aids to navigation, but also in lighting. But essentially, even if you're in there, sometimes if I stand in the lens room, I can see images completely upside down. And sometimes you're looking at one of the prisms and it's a perfect mirror. And so when I go in there to shine the lens, I put a little video together about that too. You can see just how varied all of these configurations are in order to take what's not currently a very big light at all. We used to have bulbs, 1,000-watt bulbs about that big. Then we moved to bulbs about that big. And now we've got this whole LED system of tiny little lights, but it still takes all the lights that they shine and tries to send it straight out to sea. You're not really, this light is not meant for people at the base of the tower. It's meant for people off in the water. So it's not meant to shine down, it's meant to shine out. And all of the prisms work to get the light to shine in that direction and not all the way up and all the way down. Hope that helps.
Yes. Okay, and our next question. Do you have a book recommendation on lighthouses and the keepers?
So I'm working on that. Honestly, that's, I feel, which is, I'm so happy to join you today. Having worked here for so long and having been closed in first, this is how I spend my time, right? Is all of this research. That's why I have all of these primary sources for you. So really my goal is to get that book written. But no, I don't. We do have a book about the keepers that's called, the one I mentioned before, To Illuminate the Dark Space, which we have for free as a PDF on our website, which is obcinc.org. That's short for Outer Banks Conservationist Incorporated.org. And you can download that book there. That's oral history for our lighthouse keepers. But so I've been working on getting primary sources put together and genealogy and all of that. So hopefully one day we will have you all of this and more, because in case you haven't figured out, I could talk for days if I started taking us down all the rabbit holes.
Okay. Are a lot of lighthouses transitioning to LEDs?
If they're owned by the Coast Guard or operated by the Coast Guard, then the answer is yes, because, and I loved the last light we had in there. The video will show you what they looked like in the past 15 years. The current one, and I know the electrical engineers are gaga over it, it's just not pretty. Our lens is still fabulous and still so cool, and we're glad to be able to have the functioning of the lens still at use. But essentially what the Coast Guard guys who came here to swap it out said that the system I had before was no longer being produced, and in 4 years there would have been no replacement parts for it. And so they're trying to get everybody onto LED, but it definitely has a different feel. I got even a call 2 nights ago from some guy who's like, what's up with the light? How did I not see they swapped it out? There's something about it not being yellow anymore. Now it is like a pretty bright white or green almost, some people say, that with no fade to it, that I think will take us a while to adjust to.
Okay. That looks like all the questions we have so far.
Okay, let me get back to a screen share then. Oh no, I'm
Oh,
still.
that's right, because I need to do that for you. Hold on just a second. Now, oops, I know why. Here we go. Well, I thought I had it. Hold on just a second. It's not letting me go back to screen share.
Interesting.
Oh, here we go. I got you.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. There we go. Okay, I have no idea, probably because I was rude and didn't answer the phone. I got some karmic smack, but hopefully that will not happen again. If it does, I'll log back in. Okay, let's do, oh, can you see this thing that says converting media recording that's on my page?
No.
Great, okay.
I'm good.
Outer Banks Conservationist has a lease to the tower starting in 1990. So we do a lot of research into what work needs to be done and finding money to pay for it. This is a picture from 1999 of the International Chimney, checking on all the brackets and doing rust abatement and iron there's a word that's not coming to me, refurbishing, essentially, just filling in any holes where rust had been removed, priming, painting, washing off salts. And as you can see, it's a serious endeavor when you have iron under an outdoor gallery that needs to support humans and also needs to be maintained. So this guy, I don't know if I would be this guy, but there he is working on things. Here's just a fun picture that the Outer Banks Conservationists put together of and tried to match at least the colors, if not the people, of the Keeper's House then and now. Then in 2000, the National Historic Lighthouse Preservation Act is passed, and we pilot that in some ways, where because we had 20 years of work here on site as a nonprofit, we apply for ownership of the tower. We actually gain ownership of the tower. It doesn't go very well with Currituck County, who feels like it has the word Currituck in it. Shouldn't they own the tower? You're not allowed to own a lighthouse if you're a lawbreaker. They said we were breaking law in terms of zoning, that we had a museum in a place that they had rezoned, and it became quite a mess. Here we are in the Indie Week in Raleigh. It is finally settled. The Currituck Beach Lighthouse is owned since 2003, when this when this deed is signed. Oh no, okay, hold on, go ahead and save that. Oh gosh, something is happening. I'm gonna close that. Okay. Oh no, here we go. And really, since 1990, we have been open for education and visitation. I'm just showing you all sorts of pictures. This is our 135th birthday. That was 10 years ago. This year is our 145th birthday. We didn't know if we were going to be able to celebrate it at all. We'll see what we pull off with numbers of humans and that sort of thing. But we get school groups, we get families. We're open from the middle of March usually, except for in 2020, through December 1st, which is our official illumination day of any year. And the work continues. This was this piece of wood, we didn't even realize it was rotting. We were working on some steps here when we realized that needed to be replaced this winter. Also put a whole video about it, about winter work. Feel free to check it out. This is the project we're in the middle of. $345,000 we owe to the International Chimney Corporation, who was here in February. Everything hunky-dory. They leave in March, and suddenly, as you know, everything come Friday, the 13th of March, shuts down, and they have not been back, and we haven't had any income because we've had a closed lighthouse. But we had pieces of our, not even roof, of the part that support the cornice supporting the copper roof. We knew that there was rust here. So they came, they removed these pieces, found other pieces. These brackets had more rust on them than we expected, and sent them off to the foundry, which was closed for COVID. So only just now we're back gearing up to get some of the work done. These pieces of wood are no longer there, but the supports for them have been up. Oh, you can see a little bit of a 2x4 there. Currently is up now because we were expecting them to be back with recast metal just 6 weeks later. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the Outer Banks Conservationists now is home to 2 sites, the Currituck Beach Lighthouse and the Island Farm in Manio. Well, no, I shouldn't say Manio, right outside Manio, but on Roanoke Island. They've got sheep. We've recently got acquired this windmill, and they've been open because they're an outdoor farm. They've actually been able to be open throughout COVID. So you can certainly check them out Tuesdays through Fridays, 10 to 4. In the meantime, we started a fundraising event, not event, wrong word, a fundraising campaign for the Currituck Beach Lighthouse, which is still live on our website. We still have not opened. After I meet with y'all, I'm headed out to meet the bosses to talk about how to safely open the lighthouse, keep our employees safe, provide people gloves, clean, open windows, make sure all windows open. That's me with a mask inside the lighthouse. That's how people are gonna have to be climbing. If they climb, that's gonna be tough on heat advisory day. That's it, that's us, 40 years of the Outer Banks Conservationists. I'll get us out of screen sharing. There we go. If we have more questions, I'll take them. And if not, we can try to walk outside and even poke inside the lighthouse until I lose you if you want, Lori.
Sure. So does anyone else have a question before we head over to the lighthouse today? It kind of feels different to say as we head over to the lighthouse. So this is pretty cool. So I do have one question.
Sure.
The International Chimney, the
Chimney. Yeah.
Now, they were the ones that participated in the move of the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse too, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah. And it's a chimney corporation, right? Because they think of our tower like a big industrial brick chimney. They know how to scaffold it. They know how to go up and down it. And they do, in fact, know how to move an entire lighthouse.
Yes. Okay. Well, there's no question, so we'll head over to the lighthouse until we.
Okay. You know what I failed to mention was that our little keeper's house, the one that was moved over here in 1920, has been open. Oh, I'm actually going to put a mask on, y'all, because there's always people on the grounds. Our grounds have been open. Oh, I couldn't use this as a background without any window in the background. Sorry, everybody. But our little keeper's house, there we go. If we have more questions, I'll take them. And if not, we can try to walk outside and even poke inside the lighthouse until I lose you if you want, Lori.
Sure. So does anyone else have a question before we head over to the lighthouse today? It kind of feels different to say as we head over to the lighthouse. So this is pretty cool. So I do have one question.
Sure.
The International Chimney, the
Chimney. Yeah.
Now, they were the ones that participated in the move of the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse too, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah. And it's a chimney corporation, right? Because they think of our tower like a big industrial brick chimney. They know how to scaffold it. They know how to go up and down it. And they do, in fact, know how to move an entire lighthouse.
Yes. Okay. Well, there's no question, so we'll head over to the lighthouse until we.
Okay. You know what I failed to mention was that our little keeper's house, the one that was moved over here in 1920, has been open. Oh, I'm actually going to put a mask on, y'all, because there's always people on the grounds. Our grounds have been open. Oh, I couldn't use this as a background without any window in the background. Sorry, everybody. But our little keeper's house has been a museum shop now. I didn't even talk about how we got this building back on site. Whatever. You'll have to tune in for more Meghan facts. But that little shop that little house we've been using as a shop for decades now, ever since we got rid of all the brush and rebuilt part of it. And through governor's orders, retail could be open. So they allow and have been allowing 8 people in at a time, masks only. So our grounds have been open since, I think, April. I can't remember when we said, oh, we better just open the ground. So I'm going to walk out with my mask on. I'm going to hope not to lose you. I'm going to walk past all of those people who are going to be mad that they did not log on to our lunch date because they can still not go into the lighthouse. And I might even try to climb with y'all a little. It's not going to last forever. I'm going to lose you, but I'd love to at least get you to the base of the tower and we could look up. So if that sounds good, let's do it. I hope I do not trip on it. Okay, let's bring up the phone. Let's tuck that in. Off we go. Okay, we can see if anybody's out here. Oh, everybody went to lunch. Oh, that means not too many people are going to be mad when I go walk in that lighthouse. Okay, welcome to the Currituck Beach Lighthouse, everybody. There she blows. We got some visitors. Here, I'll show you. There's the little storehouse I showed you the architectural plans for, and that you've been inside for a while. I'll try to walk with y'all this way. Oh, there's my employee who called me that I sent a voicemail. He's here awfully early. I told him I was going to be chatting with y'all, though, so we'll say hey to Andy. He already got another job, but maybe he's here to stay and work a couple hours. Y'all are going to let me know if you live nearby and need a couple hours as a docent in a week. Hello, Andy. Oh, hi, lad. I didn't know we were having you. I'm on my Zoom call.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Okay, hold on. You can't really see, lad. That's our executive director. That's Andy, who I sent the voicemail. You called me in the middle of Zoom call, Andy. I sent you a voicemail. Okay, hold on. Let's turn around. There's the keeper's house. I'm going to have this whole place backwards. There's the little keeper's house that came over on a barge I told you all about. Okay, excuse me. We're going in. Opening up. Everybody always loves to see if we accidentally left the door unlocked, but we don't.
And Megan, I think you have frozen again in time on us. So, as we said, as soon as that we kind of lost signal that we would end today's program. So we would like to thank everyone that has joined us today for our History for Lunch on the Currituck Beach Lighthouse. We would like to thank Megan for us. So as you know, we have permission, or we have permission to reopen. The Currituck Beach Lighthouse will be reopening, and we'll be able to welcome visitors. We cannot wait to have everyone back here at the museum. So just remember, September the 10th, you can also look for information on our Facebook page as to when we will reopen. But guess who is back with us? We got Megan back.
Okay, I swapped onto the internet of the lighthouse. Sorry about that. Oh God, sorry. That's kind of a mess in there, y'all. Sorry. We had to be in there to be like, put the gloves out, get everything in order. I'm gonna walk us here, and then I am gonna lose you. Hold on. Wait, why am I wearing my
Hold on. Hey, Megan, just a second. I do have a question. So, they just wanted to thank you so much and so informative. And
it was my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, Lori, and everybody else. Thanks for coming.
Well, we've been working with Meg Puckett with the Horse Funds, and she highly recommended you. So, but
that's all.
We're just glad, because sometimes, you know, we don't take the opportunity to do history in our own backyard. So this is a way for people to experience, and I got it right, the Currituck Beach Lighthouse.
Girl, learn one thing, Lori. It's been a success. Okay.
Yes, it has. I'll let you continue until we lose you.
Okay, that sounds good. People are probably going to watch this video and be like, that was weird. Anyway, if it's weird, sorry, y'all, but this is the best I can do. Okay, I'm going to try to keep a straight line with the internet so that I can do that for you. Woo!
How awesome.
Okay, I think that's as far as you're going to get. We're on the first landing. This is the well system. You remember I told y'all, I bet you're all like, now I have vertigo, Megan. If you look up, and I don't know whether you can see it or not, on every landing, there's like a eyelet, and that's where the cable coming from the crankable lens came down this lighthouse.
And the weight would have gone only from that first landing, or that first metal, that iron landing, to here. And in order, presumably, to not crack the marble floor, we had a pit here full of sand that, should the governor or the system release the weight, it would have fallen straight down, right? It would have worked like a whole lot faster gravity. It did have a tick-tock governor on it to stop it from falling so quickly. It took about 2.5 hours to go from that landing down to the top of this sand-filled pit. And so now that is completely empty today because we let people throw money in it. And any nonprofit, you know, should have a wishing well, because it does net us, it does gross us a couple $100 a year just in coins alone. I think there's a coin shortage on the Outer Banks, but we cannot help with that because we haven't been open for people to throw their coins in. Okay, I'm sure you're having trouble hearing me in the echo, so I will walk around one more time. If anybody has more questions, if we don't lose you. Oh, cool stairs. Oh, you know what? These steps are completely original, but one thing we did do was add brackets to them. So it used to be when you climbed these stairs, they would vibrate, and this relieved a little bit of weight on the individual steps. But that's the one change, historic change we made. Otherwise, this iron is original and these steps are original, as is the brick. Here, let's get you a view as if you were leaving. If y'all have ever been to Body Island Lighthouse, you know that over this arch, they have a big marble identifier. I don't even know what we should be calling that right now. This is Body Island, and it's longitude and it's latitude, and they didn't give one to us, unfortunately. Okay, I'm gonna turn you around and we can walk out. Okay, oh, all our windows are open. I'm so happy. Okay, everybody, that might be it.
Awesome. Again, thank you to everyone that has joined us today. Thank you to Megan, and I'm sure you all are ready to welcome your visitors back, just like we are ready to welcome our visitors back.
We sure are. We're almost ready. Don't go putting words in my mouth, Lori. We're not quite ready.
Well, we're ready. We will be ready September the 10th at 10 o'clock a.m.
There you go. And hi to my friend Debbie. I see my friend Debbie is on. Hi, Debbie. Okay, y'all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. And we'll have a History for Lunch on the 3rd Wednesday of September. So keep your eyes out for that information. Thank you, Megan. Have a great day.
Thank you. Great to see you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.